Justice, cynics say, is just another name for victory, and Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad is winning. He has bombed and tortured and gassed his own people, and yet he is getting away with mass murder. Assad buried his own people under a pile of rubble, but he couldn't bury the evidence. In the heat of battle, piles of documents in government buildings, police stations, military outposts were left unguarded. And a small group of brave Syrian activists swooped in and stole them away. We joined them on one of their smuggling missions. They had just crossed the border with a trunk full of stolen documents. It's the first time a television camera has been allowed to follow the process, and we agreed not to identify any of the Syrians involved. Their leader asked to be called simply Adel.
This must be the most dangerous job in the world. Why do you do it?
Because I want to see the rule of law established in Syria. I want to see an end to the cycle of revenge.
Adel has had some close calls. Some of his teammates were arrested, others killed, but he says it's worth it.
We witnessed crimes against humanity. We witnessed the killings. I am a lawyer and I believe in criminal justice. We have to have trials.
The smuggled evidence is delivered by the bagful to Chris Engels, an American war crimes investigator.
Yeah, that's great.
He works for the Commission for International Justice and Accountability, or CIJA for short, which has so far collected more than 750,000 pages of evidence from Syria. One of the new documents from Syria caught our attention. It named dozens of Syrians arrested for protesting against the Assad government, and all of them appear to have accepted guilt.
It says, At-Taraf, confessed. Every one of them confessed to the crime.
Yes.
So when it says confess, they mean confess under torture?
If they didn't confess, then torture would be applied.
So is this the paper trail of a war crime?
This is a very important part of the paper trail. The evidence is as strong as it's ever been of a regime committing mass atrocities against its own citizens.
The evidence is strong. Very courageous Syrians have risked torture and death to get it, to get photos like these out of Syria.
How many pictures of victims did you take?
We took photos of more than 11,000 bodies, 4 to 5 photos of each victim.
The photos were the regime's own record of its crimes, the work of an official photographer for the military police. He smuggled them out and now goes by the code name Caesar.
The photos show that they were tortured. Their bodies were burned, their eyes gouged out. They were dragged behind cars, electrocuted.
4 years after his explosive photographs first shocked the world, Caesar is still in hiding. We agreed to even disguise his voice to help protect him. But he and his photos are well known, famous even. In September, at a ceremony in Nuremberg, Germany, he was celebrated.
Caesar has brought the world unanswerable evidence. I believe that Caesar's evidence has made justice for Syria inevitable.
But Caesar, afraid for his life and for the lives of those he left behind in Syria, wasn't in the hall that night. He didn't come to Germany at all. There is a cruel irony in the fact that Caesar's award was handed out here in the city of Nuremberg. This city is still mostly remembered as the place chosen by the U.S. and its allies to bring Nazi leaders to justice at the end of World War II.
At Nuremberg, the Hitler gang has gone on trial. For the first time, criminal war leaders are being judged by an international court.
This is the greatest place in the world. This is where it all began. This is where Justice Jackson came and said that the law had to reach men who possessed themselves
Of great power and make deliberate use of it to
set in motion evils which touch every home. This is the heart. This is the beginning of international justice.
Stephen Rapp is an accomplished war crimes prosecutor.
How does the evidence of the Syrian war crimes compare to the evidence that was shown in this room?
The Caesar evidence is incredible. I mean, it is actually better evidence than we had in the Nazi concentration camps, because you didn't actually have them putting on the body of each corpse a card that identified that individual.
For 2 years, Caesar lived a dangerous double life, filling one flash drive after another with copies of the gruesome images.
I had the flash drives in my sock and go through checkpoints. They would frisk us, and I was afraid because if they found the drives, they would have killed me and my whole family.
You risked your life to get these photographs out. Was it worth it?
I risked more than just my own life. I risked the lives of my family and of all the people who helped me smuggle these pictures out of Syria.
Caesar finally escaped with his flash drives in 2013. Rapp, then the U.S. ambassador on war crimes, made sure they were seen all over the world.
How important are Caesar's photographs as a body of evidence?
They really do demonstrate that this regime was in the business of torturing and murdering its own people. Under international law, if a commander or a political leader has people under his control and they're committing crimes, he's guilty in the same way as if he gouged out the eyes or cut the flesh or burned them with an electric shock or snuffed out their lives.
The Syrian government, of course, called the pictures fake, but a committee of legal and forensics experts interviewed Caesar and carefully examined his images. It found him to be a truthful and credible witness.
Okay.
Still last year, when Assad was confronted with Caesar's pictures, he called them fake news.
It's just propaganda, it's just fake news. They want to demonize the Syrian government.
Caesar says the Syrian regime has demonized itself and that his goal is to bring Assad and his henchmen to justice.
Why the hell is nothing happening?
Nothing's happening because we don't have a Nuremberg court.
The Security Council is called to order.
Establishing an international court would take a UN resolution, and time again,
those against?
Russia has used its veto power to stop that from happening.
Syria is Russia's most important ally, so they are dead set against justice. They're dead set against any kind of investigation that's independent, even the one on poison gas. After we appoint an independent body to deal with it and present abundant proof, oh, it's all biased. No.
Rapp, who started working on the Syria case for President Obama, admits that administration didn't fight the Russian veto as hard as it could have.
If Assad gets away with this, stays in power, continues to govern his country, what message does that send to other dictators?
It's a horrendous message, and it's a message that has effects on everybody everywhere. Attacks on hospitals and ambulances and doctors and nurses. Use of poison gas. Those rules have been observed in every war in the 20th century. And suddenly those rules are violated. What happens when somebody else faces a counterinsurgency or faces students in the street or people that are saying, let's have an election finally that's halfway fair? They're going to say, look back at Syria. Torture, kill your way out of it, and you get away with it.
The Trump administration has no ambassador for war crimes or the inclination to stand up to Russia. So the case against the Syrian government isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Did accountability die in Syria?
Accountability was dealt a body blow in Syria. I mean, I think it's on life support.